April 1945. Germany is burning. As General George S. Patton's Third Army sweeps across the western bank of the Rhine, American infantrymen are methodically clearing ruined airfields. They expect to find the usual debris of a defeated empire: twisted Messerschmitts, burning Focke-Wulfs, and shattered concrete. Instead, hidden inside a heavily damaged hangar, they find something that stops them in their tracks. It has no tail. It has no traditional fuselage. It is a massive, smooth, jet-powered flying wing that looks like a giant stingray. It looks like it was dropped out of a time machine. An anxious German engineer, left behind in the chaos, explains to the bewildered Americans that this is a jet-propelled aircraft capable of breaking the sound barrier, and it is virtually invisible to radar. The American command reacts instantly. The plane must be dismantled and shipped to the United States immediately. The advancing Soviet army is coming from the east, and they cannot be allowed to see this. This is the story of the Horten Ho 229, a machine built from plywood, steel tubes, and coal dust that accidentally became the world's first stealth fighter. To understand how the Third Reich built an aircraft decades ahead of its time, you have to go back to the Treaty of Versailles. After World War I, Germany was strictly banned from developing a military air force. But the Germans found a loophole: gliders. The government poured money into civilian sporting clubs. Across the country, young men began building and flying unpowered aircraft. Among them were three brothers, Reimar, Walter, and Wolfram Horten. They lacked formal degrees in aeronautical engineering, but they had an absolute obsession with a single aerodynamic concept: the flying wing. A traditional aircraft produces drag with its fuselage and tail. The Horten brothers realized that if you remove everything except the wing, you eliminate parasitic drag. This means you get a plane that climbs faster, flies further on less fuel, and achieves much higher top speeds. By 1934, they had built their first successful tailless glider. When the shadows of World War II began to form, their obscure hobby caught the attention of the highest levels of the Luftwaffe. By the early 1940s, the war was taking a brutal toll. Wolfram Horten was killed over Dunkirk. Walter flew in the Battle of Britain and watched helplessly as German aircraft were shredded by British Spitfires and radar-guided anti-aircraft fire. The Hortens knew Germany needed an aircraft that was too fast to catch and too stealthy to see. Enter Hermann Göring, the head of the Luftwaffe. He issued an impossible requirement known as the 3x1000 project. He wanted a bomber that could carry 1,000 kilograms of bombs, fly 1,000 kilometers without refueling, reach a speed of 1,000 kilometers per hour. Traditional engineering couldn't solve this. If you added engines to go faster, you burned more fuel. If you added fuel, the plane got too heavy. The Horten brothers stepped forward and pitched their flying wing. Because it had virtually no aerodynamic drag, it was the only design mathematically capable of hitting all three targets. Göring approved the project immediately. They had 6 months to make it fly. The construction of the Ho 229 was a masterclass in improvisational engineering. By 1944, Germany was out of aluminum and advanced alloys. The Hortens had to build their futuristic jet out of whatever was left. The central pod of the aircraft was welded from steel tubing to hold the pilot and the twin UMO 004 turbojet engines. But the massive, sweeping wings were made of wood. They used a thick plywood skin, but with a bizarre twist. The wooden layers were glued together using a special mixture of sawdust, charcoal, and carbon dust. The wings were perfectly smooth, swept back at a 32-degree angle, with no protruding rivets, antennas, or sharp edges. The tricycle landing gear was completely retractable. For 1944, it was an alien spacecraft. It even featured a primitive ejection seat for the pilot. In February 1944, the unpowered V-1 glider prototype flew beautifully. But the true test came in December 1944, when the jet-powered V-2 prototype took to the skies. Test pilot Erwin Ziller pushed the machine to its limits. It was astonishingly fast and handled beautifully. But during its fourth test flight in February 1945, disaster struck. One of the early, highly unreliable turbojet engines flamed out mid-air. In a tailless aircraft, asymmetrical thrust is a death sentence. Without a vertical tail rudder to stabilize the plane, the Ho 229 went into an uncontrollable flat spin. Ziller fought the controls all the way down, but the plane smashed into the earth outside the runway. Ziller survived the initial impact, but died from his injuries 2 weeks later. The program was nearly canceled. But then, the engineers looked at the radar data from the test flights. They discovered a shocking, unintentional secondary feature of the aircraft. The combination of the smooth, tailless shape and the carbon dust glued into the wooden wings absorbed and deflected electromagnetic waves. British radar stations, which could easily spot a formation of traditional bombers, would not be able to detect the Ho 229 until it was less than 2 minutes away. It was virtually invisible. The Hortens hadn't just built a fast bomber, they had accidentally invented stealth technology. Göring was ecstatic. He immediately ordered 40 of them into mass production, but time had run out for the Third Reich. In March 1945, the Gotha factory was working day and night to assemble the V3, V4, V5, and V6 prototypes under the constant threat of Allied bombs. When Patton's Third Army finally overran the facility in April, the American intelligence officers recognized exactly what they were looking at. This was technology that could dominate the coming Cold War. They acted with ruthless efficiency. The American engineers carefully dismantled the V3 prototype, the most complete model, and packed it into crates to be shipped across the Atlantic via Operation Seahorse. To ensure the technology didn't fall into the hands of the advancing Red Army, American sappers wired the remaining V4, V5, and V6 prototypes with explosives and blew them to pieces. The V3 prototype arrived in the United States, where it was subjected to intense study. American aerospace engineers, notably Jack Northrop, had been working on their own flying wings, but the German design validated the aerodynamic math in a profound way. The Horten Ho 229 never dropped a bomb in combat. It never fought a British Spitfire, but its DNA changed the sky forever. Decades later, when the United States Air Force needed a bomber that could evade advanced Soviet radar, they didn't look to traditional designs. They looked at the smooth, sweeping, tailless curves of a flying wing. Today, the $2 billion B-2 Spirit stealth bomber flies with the exact same aerodynamic philosophy drafted by 3 glider enthusiasts in the 1930s. Today, the sole surviving Ho 229 rests at the Smithsonian's Udvar Hazy Center, slowly undergoing preservation. It is a haunting monument to what happens when engineering brilliance collides with desperate times, a machine that arrived just a few months too late to change the war, but exactly on time to design the future.